My friends, spooky season is officially upon us. It's October and I am so ready to dive into some of the greatest Halloween specials and spooky episodes of all time. I've been looking forward to spooky season for what feels like forever now, and I'm so happy that it's finally here, but I can't lie to you guys, this spooky season is gonna be really different for me. It's gonna take a lot of adjustment for me because, huge news, I'm moving. My house is officially sold as of the 26th of September, so I guess as of the time of me posting this, I am out of my house. It's weird to say that because as of the time that I'm recording this, I'm still living in my old house, and the reality hasn't really fully set in that I'm leaving this place behind. I talked about this more in depth on Patreon, but I'm having a hard time with the move just a little bit. First of all, our new house doesn't close until about October 19th, so we're kind of displaced at my mom's house for a little while, but on top of that, though the house we're moving to is perfect for our needs and I'm so excited to live there, I'm struggling with the fact that I'm leaving behind the garage where this YouTube channel was born. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but hey, I'm a sentimental guy, and it's weird to think that right now I'm recording some of the last videos that I will make in this house. October of 2020 is when all of this started, and this month I celebrate 3 years of uploading videos on YouTube. It's been a wild ride, and I'm thankful to be taking this journey with you guys, so I figured it's time we celebrate. There's just so much to be thankful for. I'm celebrating 3 years on YouTube, I'm going to be moving to a new state and leaving my day job so that I can work on YouTube full time. I'm going to be making a ton more long form content, multiple channels, merch, and maybe some live streams eventually at some point. I'm not sure about that though. This is the beginning of hopefully some big change for my channel. I'm reaching for the stars and I'm excited to see where we go from here. In honor of the occasion, I figured that there would be no better way to celebrate than to make a Dark Side of Hey Arnold interlude. A little taste, if you will, of things to come. The Dark Side of Hey Arnold is gonna be a wild ride in the back half, and I can't wait for you guys to see where we go from here in the main series, but for now, we're gonna touch briefly on what could possibly one of the darkest episodes of Hey Arnold to ever air on Nickelodeon. That's why today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, we're checking out the episode of Hey Arnold called Four-Eyed Jack.
Pretty boys dig up a severed hand in the cellar. Pretty good, Gerald. But I've got to read this one first. The Purdy Boys trapped in a mansion with a bunch of undead mummies. These books are sick. I love them. Hey, look at these, Gerald. Look at you, Arnold.
As the boys are laughing, Arnold's grandpa comes in with a plate of cookies and some milk for them before the power goes out again.
Whose glasses are these?
Bony Maroney! Those look like the glasses of Four-Eyed Jack.
Four-Eyed Jack? Who's that?
You never heard of Four-Eyed Jack? Well, give me one of them cookies and I'll tell you the story. Oh, this has got sparkles on it.
Arnold's grandpa tells them of a weird guy that used to live in the boarding house long before either of them were born. He was called Four-Eyed Jack because of his need for glasses, due to the fact that he couldn't see more than 4 feet in front of himself.
People pretty much left him alone here in the boarding house. He mostly kept to his room in his cellar, cooking refried beans. Woohoo! They stank to high heaven. Jack had a notion to invent a new method of cooking them. He was always experimenting on bigger and bigger batches of beans. Finally, he went too far. His pressure cooker exploded, and not a trace of Four-Eyed Jack was ever found there again.
Since then on every dark and stormy night, the ghost of Four-Eyed Jack wanders around the boarding house as blind as a bat, looking for his lost glasses and moaning and muttering and crashing into things, spreading his awful stench and scaring the bejiminy out of people.
You're telling me that this place is haunted?
Well, no, that would be irresponsible. What I'm trying to say is, yes, it is haunted by the vengeful, unholy, crypt-reeking ghost of Four-Eyed Jack! Here you go, short man. You'll be hearing from him tonight, I'll wager. By moving these glasses, you've disturbed his spirit.
A I'll be hearing from him?
Arnold suggests that maybe he was meant to find the glasses and give them back to Four-Eyed Jack so that he can finally move on and stop haunting the boarding house. Meanwhile, Gerald thinks that they should just put them back. Just then, Grandpa heads for the door as he's about to have an accident.
I'll be in the commode. Your grandma made raspberry cobbler tonight. Oh, boy. I'd be careful with those glasses, short man.
Gerald just brushes all of it off and continues about his night trying to read a book, but Arnold is already up and investigating. He thinks that he's heard something go bump in the night, and he's convinced that it's Four-Eyed Jack looking for his glasses. Arnold starts to run downstairs, and Gerald begrudgingly follows him. Arnold thinks that just everything he's hearing is the ghost, even the squeaking of his bottom stair.
You hear it, Gerald? It's louder than ever. He's real close.
You were at the racetrack.
I wasn't at the racetrack. I was looking for a job in the same neighborhood as the racetrack.
Oh, I know you were at the racetrack.
Hi, Mr.
That
Kokoschka.
neighborhood is
Oh,
full of
hello,
racing
Arnold.
jobs.
And,
It doesn't
Arnold's
matter how many
friend.
times you say it,
Gerald.
Oscar, I know
He
you were
doesn't
at
look
the
like any
racetrack.
Four-Eyed Jack to me,
You're a
Arnold.
chronic gambler.
I'd say he looks like Oscar.
Arnold asks Oscar if he's heard any weird noises recently, and just then they all hear some strange noise coming from down the hall. Oscar joins them as they go knocking on Ernie's door, wondering what the noise is that's coming from his room. Ernie just kind of looks at them weird for questioning him as Gerald starts telling Arnold to stop being crazy because there's no such thing as ghosts.
Did you say ghost? Hey, not so fast, kid. Listen, Arnold. You don't want to disturb the spirits on a night like this. You don't want to mess with the unknown. I messed with the unknown one time.
What happened?
Nothing. But it could have been horrible. I could have been struck dead or turned to stone or something. Who knows? That's why they call it the unknown. Listen, if I was you boys, I'd turn back right now.
Ernie tells them that for the last few nights, he's been hearing some really weird noises coming from downstairs. He says it sounds like someone's gagging on a hoagie. Arnold says that it must be Four-Eyed Jack, and they go down to investigate.
I'll go first. This could get ugly.
Hello. Yes.
I told you it could get ugly.
Mr. Wynn?
Mr. Wynn tells them that he was just gargling, and Gerald continues on telling Arnold that he needs to calm down. All the meanwhile, Mr. Wynn is just confused by all this, and Arnold explains to him that they were all just looking for a ghost.
Are you saying there's a ghost in the boarding house, Arnold?
Well...
When there is a ghost in the house, you need to give him an offering to make him go away. This chicken look good.
Hey, that's my lunch.
Give him the halibut. It's going bad anyway.
As lightning strikes above the house, we hear an ominous moaning from a weird secret tunnel behind the hall closet. The group heads down the tunnel and deep down into what looks like a stone dungeon with weird electronics all over the place, seemingly covered with bean splatter everywhere. They finally come upon the door where the moaning is coming from, but as Arnold reaches for the knob, Gerald suggests that they don't open it.
Why not?
Look, man, if you open that door and we find out what's behind it, then one of us will be right. So one of us will be wrong. And what if it's me?
Never eat raspberries, boys.
Grandpa, what are you doing here?
Grandpa explains to Arnold that he's using the downstairs bathroom that he keeps a secret from everyone else so that he can get his reading done. Arnold is blown away because he had no idea that this part of the house even existed. Meanwhile, much to Grandpa's dismay, everyone else is in awe of how clean and nice the secret bathroom is. They all start inspecting the bathroom as Gerald finally convinces Arnold once and for all that there is no ghost. Arnold finally seems to accept that fact as he switches off the light, and we cut right to later on that night.
Boo.
The first thing that comes to mind fresh as this episode comes to an end is how in the world did nobody know that this bathroom existed? Like, Grandpa is the oldest person in the boarding house, so it would kind of make sense that no one else there would remember Four-Eyed Jack, as it could have been before their time there. But like, the concept of this area is weird because it implies that this area's been behind this closet Arnold's entire life, and he just, like, never noticed. That really just seems improbable, and I understand that I might be reading a little bit too far into it, but just saying, that really doesn't make sense. Honestly, it really sucks that Arnold didn't know that the area wasn't there, because I can think of numerous instances where that would have been useful. For example, the episode where all the 5th graders are trying to shove Arnold and his classmates into garbage cans. If they had gotten to the boarding house, everyone could have just hidden down there and no one would have had any idea. Honestly, the idea of having an area like that hidden deep under your house is kinda cool. Honestly, the idea of having an area like that hidden deep under your house is kinda cool. I'm sure they were just over dramatizing their journey down there, but they didn't make this seem like any normal basement. It was like a whole ass trek through a cave down there to get to this area. It was like its own little secret hidden spot under the house. It's kind of a bummer that this area is never really brought up again in future episodes, but it is what it is. Another thing I wanted to bring up before we get into the dark side of this episode is in the beginning where we see Arnold and Gerald hanging out and going through the books in this box. They're checking out the Purdy Boys books, which is a reference to the Hardy Boys, which is a book series about two brothers who solve mysteries together. This title, the Purdy Boys, being both a spoof of the Hardy Boys and a reference to one of the show's writers, Joseph Purdy. Another huge thing that I have to point out in this episode that I didn't notice the first few times I saw it is that part where Grandpa is telling the ghost story. He talks about how the old blind ghost of Four-Eyed Jack wanders the boarding house on stormy nights. We see his ghost attacking a pot of beans that's cooking on the stove. What I didn't realize though is that the woman who's being terrorized while cooking beans is a young Grandma Gertie. I do gotta say, this kind of frustrates me just a little bit. We don't see her appear at all throughout this episode other than this scene, and I think it would have been awesome to hear her side of this story and if she has any other stories of run-ins with the ghost. Honestly, more than anything, I just feel like that's a huge missed opportunity, but hey, that's just me. I love Arnold's grandma. She's so entertaining to me, and in my opinion, the more screen time she gets, the better. Moving on from there though, there's a lot of dark and ominous implications seen throughout this episode that we definitely have to talk about. First of all, we're gonna start with the most lighthearted of the bunch. That scene where Grandpa ominously tells Arnold to be careful with those glasses. He stands in the doorway and just stares intently at the boys as he requests Arnold heed his warning. Meanwhile, lightning is flashing and just amplifying every shadow that's hitting Grandpa's face. It's just so ominous and foreboding in a very dramatic way. Another thing I have to talk about before we get to the elephant in the room is Oscar and his wife Susie. Arnold and Gerald walk down the stairs from Arnold's room thinking that they're hearing the sound of Four-Eyed Jack's ghost looking for his glasses. They walk down the hall and follow the noise, expecting maybe to find a ghost, but nope, it's just a heated domestic dispute complete with Susie throwing things at Oscar. This right here is just another great example of how serious this show can get while going over kids' heads at the same time. I remember seeing this as a kid and it didn't even really register with me what was going on. Susie is literally shouting at Oscar and throwing stuff at him because he was lying to her. He's telling Susie that he wasn't at the racetrack and that he was just looking for a job in the area near the racetrack. All the meanwhile, she knows he's lying as someone literally told her that they saw him at the racetrack. This comes loaded with some seriously dark implications. First of all, them fighting in front of kids is just unacceptable. You, as an adult, should never let your fight spill over in front of children. You also shouldn't be throwing things in general. Violence is never the answer, and throwing things is just kind of low, but especially not in front of children. On top of that, their argument is just a result of a bigger problem. Oscar has a gambling addiction. We've seen this come to light time and time again. He has screwed himself, Susie, and I'm pretty sure if I remember right, even Arnold on an occasion as a result of his gambling addiction. It's a massive problem, and it's clearly causing a huge rift between him and his wife. Yet again though, this whole situation being a thing is an example of how Hey Arnold wasn't afraid to touch on these serious topics at any time. Moving on from there though, it's time we talked about the man himself, Four-Eyed Jack. As the story goes, he was a recluse who lived in the basement, cooking beans all day. As a result, he was really smelly, and because of his obsession with cooking beans, he blew himself to bits and not even a piece of him was found. The way Grandpa tells it, a giant pressure cooker had exploded while Four-Eyed Jack was trying out a new method of cooking beans, and he perished in the explosion. However, this is definitely a watered down cover-up of the actual story in my opinion. What if I told you that Four-Eyed Jack was actually a drug addict? What if it wasn't beans that he was cooking down there? What if he was actually cooking meth or some other kind of awful drug? That would definitely explain quite a few things in my opinion. First of all, this guy is treated differently by everyone there. They all avoid him, and he seems to have a rather weird demeanor in my opinion. This episode, from what little we see, portrays him as a mad chemist of sorts. His odd demeanor could be explained by his extreme drug use. You know that if he's the one cooking it and he's using it, he's probably using a ton of it. So odds are he's probably high as a kite at all times. Furthermore, it would definitely explain the way that his weird little hideout down there was more of like a chemistry lab than a kitchen. If he was making nothing but beans, you'd see mostly kitchen appliances and stuff down there, not vials and other chemist supplies. Beans aren't that complex, to be honest. You don't need all these kinds of different supplies to cook something as simple as refried beans. It's rather suspicious if you ask me. On top of all that, him cooking and using drugs would definitely explain the smell. I've been told that meth smells like rotten eggs and cat pee, which sounds extremely unpleasant. Now, I've got a few running theories as to what happened with good old Four-Eyed Jack. First, I'm thinking that maybe what Grandpa said was true, except instead of a trying a new method of heating up beans explosion, it was more of a trying a new method of cooking meth explosion. If not that, I'm thinking maybe he was just an old smelly tweaker that got evicted and they just never really cleaned out his area, except for the bathroom, so Grandpa could use it. I do gotta say, I can't help but notice that the bathroom that Grandpa Phil is using just so happens to be in the same exact spot that the pressure cooker was in the story. So maybe, just maybe, the pressure cooker was never really there. It could be gathered by that logic that maybe Four-Eyed Jack overdosed and his body was taken out by the coroner or the DME, and Grandpa is just making up this story to lighten it to share it with the children. I'm not sure what the actual case is in the death of Four-Eyed Jack. Maybe Grandpa Phil is telling the truth and that's really how it went down. However, it can be inferred that the writers, at bare minimum, are making a reference to drug use and manufacturing. There's one big thing that I find myself wondering at the end of all this though, and that would be, is Four-Eyed Jack's ghost real? Usually episodes like this end in a way that leaves it kind of vague and makes you question everything that you saw. However, this episode's ending is very straightforward. Four-Eyed Jack's ghost goes floating into Arnold's room looking for his glasses. He finds them, and we see his vision finally clear once and for all. Being brought to peace with his glasses, Four-Eyed Jack is finally able to assume his actual form as a spirit as he appears to Gerald before seemingly moving on to the other side. That right there also is a huge deal. Gerald is literally the only person that saw Four-Eyed Jack's ghost in his actual form. He appeared to Gerald, the one person who didn't believe in him, and no one else. What's really gnarly about that too is that Gerald is just a kid. That's something that he's gonna hold on to for the rest of his life. This kid just saw a ghost moments before it passed on, and he's the only one who can ever actually say that he saw that particular ghost. That's enough to petrify you and cause you some trauma that'll follow you for life. At the end of this episode, I find myself questioning if Four-Eyed Jack's ghost is real, but Gerald saw it with his own eyes, so it must be real, right? Regardless, I can't lie to you guys, that's one of my biggest fears. Waking up to an actual legit ghost standing over my bed and looking at me is something that would petrify me to my core. But then again, I've lived in an actual haunted house before. However, that's a story for a different video. But what do you think? Do you think the story of Four-Eyed Jack is a tragic one? Also, are you excited for more long-form content and Dark Side of Hey Arnold? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love seeing your guys' feedback, and of course, wait, do you hear that? Ouch! Huh? Oh yeah, patrons. Yes, patrons, especially in the 90s kids tier. You guys rock. Thank you so much for supporting me directly and making a huge change in my life. I'm gonna be moving into a new house very soon, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, you guys. You patrons have helped me a ton with this process on multiple occasions, so again, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge solid and leave me a comment letting me know what you think and give praise to the YouTube algorithm in hopes that it shares this video with everyone else. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.